Ciao a tutti, hello everybody. So last week I shared in my newsletter 4 ways to approach reading a book if you are learning a new language. Ready? Let's start. But before diving in, I would like to share a little story with you. When I first came to the US for my exchange year in high school,
I knew English.
For an Italian, I knew English. I studied the grammar, I knew the vocabulary, but that was my school English. And I wasn't prepared at all on what would expect me in the Southern Californian slang. I wasn't prepared. I had my dictionary, but you know, that story is for another day. What I would like to share with you instead, it's something I had in school. My school had a special program in which we had to read, I think, 30 or 45 minutes every day. Every student had to pick a book from the library, read it, and then test on it just to prove that he or she read it. At first, I thought they were joking. I was a big book nerd when I was a teenager. I mean, still am, but you know, I was a big book nerd, so I was super thrilled, super excited. And then, you know, the first day I went to the library and reality hit me. Like,
Bam!
I couldn't read English. I never, ever in my life read a book in English before. Not even the kind of, you know, like graded reading, nothing at all. The top was probably like the narratives from my textbook in school. That's it. Never read a book before. And I was thinking to myself, what the heck, what I'm gonna choose as a book to read? I'm gonna go with something I read already. So I picked Emma by Jane Austen. Worst decision ever. Ever. Why? Well, number one, because obviously it's a difficult book. The language is not current English. It actually had a lot of characters. So the story itself, it's a complicated story. And I thought, well, I read this book already. I know what it's about. I mean, I didn't remember the book that well. And another thing is that it took me 3 months to read that book. I went to my counselor in high school and said, you know what, Mrs. Hampton, I can't do this. I can't read a book. And at that point, I felt discouraged. I felt, you know, like I could have never ever read a book in English. It was like the major downfall because in school I was doing okay, but reading was just so difficult. So I spoke with my teacher and he suggested to read The Lovely Bones, which is a book that had a really interesting plot and it was current English. I breezed through that. I loved it. After that, I was super motivated. I was voracious. I was reading so many books. I wanted more. And ever since, I never stopped reading in English. And that helped me tremendously with my vocabulary. So today I want to share with you 4 techniques that my teacher shared with me. And I think they're super useful to approach a book in a foreign language. Ready? Let's go. Okay, I don't know why I feel more professional at my desk. So here I am. Now, here we go. Tip number 1. Skimming. Skimming is an actual reading technique that requires rapid eye movement to go through the text. Don't worry about the rapid eye movement, but focus on the goal. The goal is to get an overview of what you will be reading. Here's what to do. Focus on words you recognize, words that sound familiar, even cognates. Remember, this is not the time to be worried about, am I understanding everything? What is the story about? Don't worry, just look for words that you know. Number 2, scanning, meaning get the facts. Now this is a little bit different, is similar, it's still a reading technique with rapid eye movement, but the difference between skimming and scanning is that skimming, you're looking for words you know. Scanning, it's basically go over the whole chapter, story, paragraph, etc. to get the general idea, the general facts. This is a time in which you kind of understand what kind of story is it. Is it a mystery story? Is it the story of a trip? Is it, you know, the summary of my travels, etc. So here you go, what you can do. Right now you're looking for keywords that give you clues about the setting, the characters, the tone, the actions of the story. It doesn't matter how many you find, as long as you have a general idea. This is a prepping moment in which you want to be as much aware as possible so that when you finally approach the story, I heard of this before, I know what it is. Having facts helps tremendously. Number 3, reading extensively. Now, I talked about this technique already on my Instagram page. You can find it right here. And basically what reading extensively is my favorite way of reading. It's reading for pleasure. When we are reading in our own language, what we do is this. We open a page, go from word 1 to the last page, and we understand everything because it's, of course, our native language. Now, the expectancy that we have towards our foreign language, that's exactly the same. We are hoping to open the book and get every single word, understand the story, and ta-da! I read a book. That's not what happens in a foreign language. Even though we have this tendency...
Oh, I don't know this one. This is the one I don't know. I want to look it up.
Resist that. Don't look for the exact word. Get the context. The goal of extensive reading is to understand the story and be able to retell it. Not with the exact same words, just what happened. What have you read? So what you can do, get a book, short story, a paragraph, whatever suits your level, and read it from the beginning to the end. Your goal is to explain what you just read. You can even do it in your own language. You can make bullet points if it helps, but be able to retell the story, the main content. And remember that reading for pleasure is the most rewarding activity in language learning, probably together with being able to communicate with somebody. And here we go to number 4, reading intensively, which is basically to improve your vocabulary. The reason why you want to read intensively at some point is because you are putting that attention that you seek at the beginning, you're putting at last. So that attention that you want to give to the text with the verb tenses and the vocabulary and all the structures you don't know, that's what you do at the end, because it's very similar to a lesson. Here you go, what to do. Read a few pages, read a few paragraphs, underline what you don't know, highlight expressions, verbs, sentences you don't understand, look them up, take notes. So this is intensive reading. Okay, so let's recap. We have the first two, skimming and scanning, are useful to get the general ideas of the story, general fact, and to prep you to read. It's not to understand the whole story, it's just acknowledging what you already know. Then we have extensive reading. Extensive reading is more for the flow of the language, especially if it's a story that has dialogues or descriptions. It gives you the flow of the language. And then we have intensive reading. Intensive reading is instead basically your vocabulary builder moment. Extensive is content and language flow, and intensive is vocabulary, expressions, grammar, etc. So let me know, have you ever heard of these techniques? Are you going to try some of them in the future? Let me know in the comments here down below. And remember also that in the description box you can find a link for my newsletter and my Instagram, where I share daily Italian vlog. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody who's learning a new language, and ci vediamo presto. Ciao! And remember that if you can find description here, and that's it.